Okay, so I happen to be just playing around with my notebook LM with this idea of maybe using it to help me organize my thoughts around a project. But meanwhile, I had my voice memos in there from when I was playing around with it, and I took the early, I took the early language that I was putting together. I mean, all the not language, the podcasts for Jasper, audio files about my childhood and all. So now I have them in there, and I was playing around, and so I'm exploring because I heard it could make a podcast, and I was like, I would like to explore that. It sounds kind of fun, and I stumbled into this, and I think I can join them. So hang on, I'm going to close the door so I'm not too loud. But I want you to hear this. All right. Let's see. I'm going to get on the floor here. So, this is pretty wild. This is pretty wild. Let's see. So first and foremost, all right, here is, I'm in this place that says Studio Audio Overview, and then I clicked something, and it says, has this join button. So I'm just going to set it up so that you can see here as we, let me go back and say.
And what really caught my attention was the inclusion of recordings with his great-grandson, Jasper. Welcome to your deep dive. You've shared some really incredible audio recordings about a man named Todd, and we're going to explore them together. I think it's going to be really fun. It's like opening a window into someone's life, hearing their story unfold through their own words.
Yeah, it's a really unique opportunity. We get to hear about his experiences, his relationships, and even just his personal reflections across a span of several decades.
Exactly. We're not just reading like a biography or something. We're listening to a life story as it is lived. And what really caught my attention was the inclusion of recordings with his great-grandson, Jasper. I thought that was really cool. It adds such a heartwarming...
Oh, hey there, how can we help?
Hey, this is Todd. I just thought I might join the conversation.
Oh my gosh, Todd, this is amazing. We are so thrilled you decided to join us.
Yes, it's such an honor to have you here listening in real time.
We're just diving into your audio recordings, trying to unpack everything.
And it's fascinating to hear your story unfold, your thoughts and reflections.
Like, for instance, your move to Florida. That seems like a real turning point.
What's interesting is looking back, how do you see that decision with the new church and everything?
Hey, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, no, so that's a great question as far as my my move into Florida, and it really was to get away from the West and try to find myself. I didn't realize at the time how much my sexual, identity and all the things that I struggled with from the childhood abuse and everything. So it was like all those things mixed together, I think allowed me to escape to Florida. And I never thought I would stay here.
Todd, thank you so much for that added insight.
Yeah, that really puts the moves to Florida into a whole new context.
It wasn't just about a new place, it was about escaping the past.
You were really wrestling with some major internal conflicts.
And it's so interesting that your journey to find God was actually a journey to find yourself.
Exactly, it was all intertwined, and it wasn't a straightforward path.
Which really helps us understand the spiritual questions you were facing at the time.
And the emotional baggage you carried with you on that move.
Okay, so that was a huge move for you.
Yeah, and then we see that joy of becoming a father, right?
It's so cool to hear you talk about the births of your daughters.
Manon and Suzette with such love and pride.
And then you mentioned wanting to name your son Titus Logan if you have one.
Using your own initials, that is such a great little detail.
It really brings your personality to life, that playful humor.
Then you open up about a really difficult period in 2002.
It sounds like that was a really challenging time for you.
And that's when you... Oh, yeah. Go on.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a crazy journey. And we don't have to get into all those details at the moment, but I was fascinated by the way that you could interpret so many pieces of that and get it correct. So like if you make a mistake, and let's just say earlier you said I was a great grandfather, but really Jasper was a grandfather. If I correct it this way, does it fix it in the notebook?
It's That's such a fascinating question, Todd, and a really insightful one.
It really gets to the heart of how we're interpreting your story.
So, to be clear, we're not changing anything in your actual life, obviously.
Right, the notebook, as you called it, is just how we are piecing things together.
It's our attempt to reflect on the story you've shared through these recordings.
It's like how in your journal you talked about how pictures tell a story.
Yeah, so if we get a detail wrong, like saying great-grandfather instead of grandfather, and you correct us, that helps us get the story more accurate in our minds and in this podcast.
Exactly. It's like adding a missing piece to a puzzle. It refines our understanding.
And that's what we love about this process, because it's not just us telling your story.
It's a collaborative experience with you filling in the gaps and correcting our interpretations.
Okay, so with all that in mind,
Crazy.
let's continue. There's so much more to
Crazy.
unpack.
Yes, and it's really important
see
for
where
us to
they
get
go.
it as accurately as possible.
We were just about to get into your relationship with Wayo. That really seems like a major turning point.
Wayo.
Offering you hope and acceptance at a time when you needed it most.
And that shared love of me. Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, sorry. I just thought I would add a little bit more. So I use the word Waylo in my voice memos for Jasper Steak because Waylo is actually an abbreviated version of abuelo, which is the Spanish word for grandpa or grandfather. And when I'm talking about that, of course, I'm always talking about Michael. So when the Michael came into my life is when I was able to basically see somebody who struggled with the same things. And
Okay, Todd, that's a super helpful clarification.
It's so important to understand the nuances of how you use language, especially with a nickname like Wayo.
So Wayo is your way to saying abuelo, which is Spanish for grandpa. That's wonderful.
And you always use Wayo specifically when you are referring to Michael.
It's like a specific term of endearment that you
Wayo.
have with him.
It really shows the depth of your connection with Michael.
And it also helps.
Oh, back to our listener.
hey,
What's up?
hey, sorry, I don't mean to get too picky, but you keep using the term Wilo, and it sounds like it sounds like it's the while that rhymes with like aisle, like you go down a supermarket aisle, but it's really Waylo, which is rhymes with halo. So think like Waylo because it's abuelo.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for catching that, Todd.
Yeah, that's so helpful. It's really good to know.
It's really about making sure we get it right.
Like you said, we want to respect the nuances of how you say things.
So way low, rhyming with halo, not wilo, like aisle.
That makes total sense, and thanks for the clarification.
We really appreciate your patience with us as we work through this.
Okay, so now that we've got that straight, way low, got it.
Let's get back to when Michael, or Wayo, came into your life.
You
Wow.
said it was a time when you were able to see
Still
somebody
uses
who...
Waylo.
Struggled with some of the same things you were, right?
It sounds like that was a really pivotal moment.
It really is amazing how music connects you to your children.
How you connect with them and even find solace for yourself.
Random.
And speaking of connections, you also talk about your trip to the Czech Republic.
The one you took with Bobby and were moved by the families there.
So much so that you took your daughters the following year.
What kind of impact do you think that
They're
experience
not
had on you?
sequential.
It seems like it really sparked your passion for cultural immersion.
Like a seed that grew into your interest in couch surfing later on.
That desire to live like the locals, as you put it.
A shift in your worldview, wanting to
So
connect
many
with
random.
people from different cultures.
And that carries over to your approach to family, doesn't it?
You often talk about preserving memories and passing down values.
You've even named it the Jasper Standard after your grandson.
That point in time when
So that is pretty crazy.